Today, I want to tell you a story that may leave you silent for a moment. This is not a movie. It is not a fairy tale. It is a story inspired by the lives of people who work every single day, hoping for a better tomorrow. That morning, it was 4:45 a.m. The sky was still dark. A cool breeze filled the air. Even the birds had not started singing yet. I was walking along a narrow dirt road. Everything was quiet. The only sound I could hear was my own footsteps. After a few minutes, I noticed a tall chimney in the distance. Dark smoke slowly rose into the sky. I realized I was standing near a brick kiln. As I walked closer, the silence slowly disappeared. I could hear the sound of shovels, the sound of wet clay being mixed, the sound of bricks being placed on the ground. I looked at my watch. It wasn't even 5 o'clock yet. I whispered to myself, "Who starts working this early?" Then I stepped inside, and everything changed. The place was already alive. Women were quietly preparing clay. Men were carrying heavy loads. Young workers were filling wooden molds with wet mud. But what caught my attention the most were the children. Little boys. Little girls. Some looked no older than 7 or 8 years old. Their hands were covered in mud. Dust covered their faces. Yet, not one of them complained. I slowly walked toward a family. An elderly woman was making tea over a small fire. A young mother was baking bread. A man was kneading wet clay with his hands. 2 children were carefully cleaning brick molds. I greeted them. They smiled back. It was a gentle smile. The kind of smile that carried years of exhaustion. I looked at the man and asked, "Brother, what is your name?" He smiled softly. "My name is Yusuf." I asked, "How long have you been working here?" He stayed silent for a few seconds. Then he wiped the mud from his hands and quietly replied, "A very long time." "So long? I've stopped counting the years." Asked, "What time does your day begin?" He gave a small laugh, but there was no joy in it. He said, "When the world is asleep, our day begins. And when people are sitting at home eating dinner, only then does our work finally end." For a moment, I had nothing to say. Just then, a little boy came running toward him. He was holding a broken plastic toy car. He looked at his father and asked, "Dad, my car is broken again." Yusuf took the toy. He looked at it carefully. Then he smiled. "It's okay, son. I'll fix it this evening." The little boy smiled with excitement. But deep inside, I wondered if his father would even have the strength left by evening. I knelt beside the child. "What is your name?" "My name is Salim." "What do you like the most, Salim?" He thought for a moment, then answered quietly, "I want to study." His words surprised me. "So, do you go to school?" He immediately looked down and softly replied, "No." I gently asked, "Why not?" The little boy stayed silent. He looked at his father, then back at the ground. Yusuf took a deep breath. Every father wants to see his child in school. I want that too. But sometimes, life feels stronger than our dreams. His words stayed with me. I couldn't answer. I simply stood there, watching them, listening, trying to understand. Just then, someone shouted from across the kiln, "Hurry up! The sun is about to rise." Within seconds, everyone moved faster. Women mixed more clay. Men filled the molds. Children carefully carried fresh bricks into long rows. The entire brick kiln suddenly felt alive, like one giant machine. Every person had a job. Every second mattered. I stood there, watching everything, and one question kept echoing inside my heart. How do these families wake up every morning, still carrying hope? I didn't know it yet, but I was about to discover the answer. By now, the sun had fully risen. The cool morning air was slowly disappearing. The heat was beginning to take over. I was still standing there, watching everything. The ground was covered with rows of fresh bricks, wet clay, dust, smoke. Everywhere I looked, someone was working. No one was standing still. No one was talking much. It felt like time itself was moving faster here. I looked at Yusuf. He never stopped. His hands moved from water, clay, to the wooden mold, and again, and again. The same movement. Without a break. I finally asked him, "Don't you ever get tired?" He smiled. Not because he was happy, but because he had heard that question many times before. "Of course I get tired," he said. "I'm human. But if I stop working, the cooking fire at home may stop too." His answer stayed with me. I didn't know what to say. A few steps away, little Salim was carefully lining up fresh bricks. He handled every brick with great care, as if it were something precious. I walked over to him and smiled. "Salim, if someone gave you one whole day to do anything you wanted, what would you do?" His eyes suddenly lit up. For the first time that morning, I saw a real smile. "I would play football. I would ride a bicycle. I would go to school. I would read lots of books. I want to learn English. I want to become someone who helps other people." Then, his smile slowly faded. He looked down and quietly asked, "Do you think that could ever happen?" For a moment, the world around me became silent. I wanted to tell him yes. I wanted to give him hope. But I also knew life isn't always that simple. Just then, an elderly woman called his name. "Salim, please bring some water." He immediately ran to help. He picked up a heavy container and carried it to his father. Yusuf drank a few sips, then placed his hand gently on Salim's shoulder. "May God bless you, my son." Just one sentence. But it carried the love of a father who wanted to give his child everything, even when he had so little. The sun climbed higher. The temperature kept rising. The ground became hotter. The smoke from the kiln mixed with the heat. Breathing became difficult. Till no one stopped working. I noticed something that broke my heart. Several workers were barefoot. Their feet were covered with dust. Some had old scars. Some had fresh cuts. Yet they kept moving. One brick after another. One step after another. Nearby, a little girl walked toward her mother. She was holding half a piece of flatbread. "Mom, you should eat too." Her mother smiled gently. "No, sweetheart. You eat. I'm not hungry." But I knew the truth. She wasn't full. She was simply making sure her daughter had enough. That is what mothers do. They hide their own hunger behind a smile. I turned my face away because my eyes were beginning to fill with tears. By noon, the sun stood directly above us. The heat became almost unbearable. The fire inside the kiln and the burning sun above made the air feel even heavier. Sweat rolled down every face. Clothes were soaked. Hands were covered in mud. But the work never stopped. Someone quietly said, "It's so hot today." Another worker replied, "The heat will pass." But the work won't. Those words echoed in my mind. I realized these people were not just making bricks. They were carrying dreams. Every brick held a prayer. Every brick carried hope. Every brick represented a parent's wish for a better future. I looked up at the sky and silently prayed, "Lord, please don't forget these families." That moment, I understood something. Hope doesn't always arrive with loud voices. Sometimes, hope is hidden inside tired hands, inside quiet prayers, inside a father's sacrifice, inside a mother's silent tears. And somehow, I knew this story was only beginning, because the hardest part of the day was still ahead. The afternoon sun was merciless. The air felt heavier with every passing minute. The smoke from the kiln mixed with the dust. Every breath carried the smell of clay. I looked around. No one had stopped working. The rhythm never changed. Fill the mold. Lift the brick. Place it on the ground. Then do it all over again. Hour after hour. I walked toward Yusuf once more. His shirt was soaked with sweat. His hands were shaking. Yet he kept working. I asked him, "When was the last time you took a real day off?" He stopped for a second. He looked at the ground. Then he smiled quietly. "I honestly can't remember. Maybe. It has been years." Before I could answer, a voice came from behind me. "Dad." It was Salim. He was breathing heavily. He had been carrying bricks across the yard. "Dad, I'm tired." Yusuf gently wiped the dust from his son's face. "I know, my son. I know. But let's finish this row first." Salim nodded. Not because he wanted to, because he understood. The work continued. The afternoon became even hotter. A dry wind swept across the kiln. Dust filled the air. Everyone covered their faces for a moment. Then, they continued working, as if nothing had happened. Nearby, an elderly worker slowly sat down in the shade. He closed his eyes for a moment. His breathing was heavy. Another worker quickly brought him some water. "Are you all right?" The old man smiled. "I'm just getting old. I'll be fine." A few minutes later, he stood up again and returned to work. Watching him, I realized something. Some people carry burdens so quietly that the world never notices. As the afternoon passed, I noticed something different. A small notebook was lying beside a stack of bricks. It looked old. Its pages were worn. Curious, picked it up. Inside, there were letters, numbers, simple English words. Someone had been practicing. I looked around. "Whose notebook is this?" Salim slowly raised his hand. "It's mine." I smiled. "You can write English?" "A little." "Who taught you?" "No one. I found an old school book. So I teach myself." He carefully took the notebook back. Every page was filled with hope. Some words were written correctly. Some were not. But every word told the same story. He had not given up learning, even when school felt far away. Asked, "What do you want to become one day?" Salim didn't answer immediately. He looked toward the open sky. Then he smiled. "I want to become someone who helps people. I don't want children to feel forgotten." His words stayed in my heart. Sometimes, the biggest dreams come from the smallest voices. The sun slowly began to move lower. Long shadows stretched across the rows of bricks. The heat finally became softer. Workers slowed down. Not because the work was finished, because their bodies had reached their limit. Yusuf looked at the sky. "It's almost evening. There is still one more row." Nobody complained. Nobody argued. Everyone quietly worked together. One final effort. One last row. As I watched them, I realized something I would never forget. Strength is not always loud. Sometimes, strength is a father who keeps smiling for his children. Sometimes, it is a mother who gives away her own meal. Sometimes, it is a child who refuses to stop dreaming. And sometimes, hope survives, one brick at a time. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring for these families. But I knew one thing. Their story deserved to be heard. Their dignity deserved to be seen. And their hope deserved to be shared with the world.